What's up, guys? Back here once again for another Fantasy Football Top 10 rankings. Today we're talking tight ends. Tight ends, pretty deep group this year. When I say deep, I mean from 6 on. It's almost the same type of players. Some have higher ceilings than others. Some have injury questions. Some have question marks on whether their team's going to use them well or not. Good group this year. I really like it. If you really want to go high, especially if the top 4 tight ends are really just as good as almost receivers at that tight end position, go for it, especially if they slip a little bit in your draft. Go ahead and take them. So start off number 1, no surprise here, it's Gronk. An absolute animal, just the best tight end in the game, maybe even the best tight end ever. It's maybe a little early for that, but last year, 72 catches, 1,076 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he missed a couple games. That's really his big question mark. If he stays healthy, he's guaranteed to be the top tight end. That along with the whole Tom Brady suspension, now it's Jimmy Garoppolo. How well will that go? We'll see. I still think he'll be good. He's my number 1 tight end. Number 2, Jordan Reed. Gronk, by the way, you can pick a late first round, early second. We'll see if he slides due to this Tom Brady suspension. If he does, I think he's a good steal in that second round. Number 2, Jordan Reed, Washington Redskins. Great guy, had a good season last year, 87 catches, almost 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns. Great guy, especially in a PPR league. He's a guy that could really push 90 receptions. His question mark is injuries. He's had a lot of them over his career. He's had a couple concussions, but if he stays healthy, he really can push Gronk for that number 1 tight end spot. I project him to have a great year this year. I didn't say who I projected for Gronk. Real quick, Gronk, if he stays healthy, 85 catches, 1,300 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Monster year, as always, just if he stays healthy. So, for Jordan Reed now. 90 catches, 1,100 yards, and 12 touchdowns. I think he's going to have a great year for Washington. Number 3, Delanie Walker, Tennessee Titans. I almost said Tennessee tight ends. Tennessee Titans. They should be all tight ends because that's really their only good offensive weapon other than Mariota. Last year, 94 catches, led all tight ends. Almost 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns. Plays for a bad team. Maybe that leads to more touchdowns. Doesn't really have any question marks. Great player. I don't think he's really that old. As far as I remember, he's like 28. This year I project him 4. I don't think he has many catches. I think 85, 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So a couple more than last year. A good tight end that you can pick in the same region as Jordan Reed, 3rd round, 4th round. Jordan Reed obviously a little bit higher, more early 3rd. Number 4, Greg Olsen. A lot of people like to have Greg Olsen higher as number 3 above Delanie Walker, just because what he did last year with Cam, but it's not for me. Even at PPR, which Delanie Walker, amazing for PPR. Greg Olsen, good player for the Panthers last year, really helped them get to the Super Bowl. I have question marks with him. He is starting to get a little bit older, but tight ends can play forever. Look at Jason Witten. He's not on this list, spoiler. But he's a good tight end to pick late. But anyway, Greg Olsen with Kelvin Benjamin coming back and Funchess another year older. Where do those targets go? Do they go to him? Do they get spread out? That's really the only question mark with him. He's been healthy almost his whole career. Good receiving tight end. He's a red zone threat, although Cam kind of takes that himself because Cam just likes to score all the time. Last year, 77 catches, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns. I project a similar year, 75 catches, 1,100 yards, and 6 touchdowns. I think he does lose one. Still a great tight end. You can get in the 4th round, early 5th for him. Another guy kind of in that same boat, Travis Kelce. High upside. They call him Baby Gronk, which he doesn't like. I found that. I was watching the NFL Top 100 players. Doesn't like that nickname, Baby Gronk. Last year, 72 catches, 875 yards, and 5 touchdowns. If the Chiefs decide to throw him the ball more, man, could he be a top 2 tight end. I project him for a very similar season. 70 catches, 850 yards. But I'm going to give him 8 touchdowns. I think they really start to look his way. With Jamal Charles being injured all the time, I don't think they're going to give him the ball in that situation. They're going to give it to Kelsey. So good player there. At number 6, we kind of drop down a tier. These are the guys that you can get in like the 7th, 8th round, but they're all in that position. All these guys are kind of flip-flopped from other people's rankings. Number 6, Colby Fleener, New Orleans Saints. I really like him. I'm really, really high on him. He's probably the number 2 option for Drew Brees, who throws for 5,000 yards almost every year, it seems. Last year, 54 catches, 491 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That was on the Colts, which he had Dwayne Allen next to him, so they kind of split those things. But I really like him as a high upside pick, and he's the number 6 tight end. And for a lot of people, even have him lower, like number 8. If you're in a 10-team league, you know, that's really good for number 8, that he can really push for that top 5. Colby Fleener, I project for 75 catches, 900 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And that may be low, that may be high. I really like him. Colby Fleener, number 6. At number 7, Tyler Eifert. The reason he is this low is because he has an injury issue already. That's his big issue, same as Jordan Reed and Gronk. He seems to be always somewhat injured. But last year scored 13 touchdowns, also caught 52 balls, and 615 yards. If he plays the whole season, I would probably bump him up to number 5, even higher, maybe number 4, because he scored 13 touchdowns. He's a big red zone threat, but he may miss the first 6 weeks of the season if he goes on the PUP list. But if he plays all 16 games, maybe they'll go to 18 games for the regular season. All 16 games, 65 catches for 800 yards, but 12 touchdowns, which for tight ends, touchdowns are huge. That's where they get a lot of their value. He's a risk. Do you take him? He's in that 8th round, 9th round. If you're desperate, you can take him. I'm kind of staying away. I don't like guys that are already injured before the regular season. But he is a high upside tight end. If he doesn't miss any time, he's a top 5 tight end. Tyler Eifert, number 7. Number 8, another guy I'm really high on that some people aren't, Ladarius Green. Pittsburgh Steelers just picked him up from San Diego behind Antonio Gates. This guy is a receiving tight end. He's probably going to be the number 2 option, at worst number 3 for Pittsburgh, and that's behind Antonio Brown. Good receiving tight end. He's going to get a lot of yards. Not quite there for PPR, but I project 50 catches, but for 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. And that's really, for me, I think that's conservative. I think he could really push for 65 catches, 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns. That's kind of being conservative. I think that's reasonable for him. Ladarius Green, number 8, really high on him. Number 9, the guy high upside. All these guys have high upsides. Julius Thomas. For him, it's really where is he in the pecking order for Jacksonville. They are going to have to put up points. He is good for PPR, and he scores touchdowns. But is he the number 2 option? Is he number 3? He's not number 1. That's Allen Robinson. Is Allen Hurns the number 2 option, or is he 3? Where's Thomas in there? Last year, 46 catches, 455 yards, and 5 touchdowns. If he stays healthy, I project 60 catches, 700 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He did miss some time last year. He's not really injury prone, but he has been injured somewhat in the past, before with Denver. Julius Thomas, number 9. Number 10, Zach Ertz. Like him, had a sneaky good season last year. Had 75 catches, 850 yards, but only 2 touchdowns, which is why his value is lower, especially in non-PPR leagues. I do like him. He's number 10 tight end. You see, number 6 to 10, they're almost all the same. He's very good for PPR. I really like him for PPR. I really put him really like number 7, but he's number 10 here. Try to keep everything balanced and equal. I project him for, again, 70 catches, 800 yards, and 6 touchdowns, which is higher than some of the guys ahead of him. It all depends on how good the Eagles are, where he is in that pecking order, but he does have that high potential. All those guys do. Two quick sleepers for you, especially if you're in a deep league or if it's a 2 tight end league. These guys can do well for you. First sleeper, Eric Ebron. He's tight end for the Detroit Lions. They're going to have to put up points. They lost Calvin Johnson, so really he's really their only red zone threat. I don't see Golden Tate a red zone threat. Marvin Jones they just picked up. Somewhat of a red zone threat, but not nearly what Ebron is. I think he catches 50 balls for 650 yards and 6 touchdowns. He does have a higher upside. We'll see what he does there. A great guy if you forgot to pick a tight end or if you're in a really deep tight end, a deep draft. Take a flyer on him. Another guy even lower, Zach Miller for Chicago. Like him, I'm not super high upside, but he's probably the number 2 option out there in Chicago behind Alshon Jeffrey. Had some really good games when Martellus Bennett was injured, which he eventually took over for Martellus Bennett, which it seemed. Which Bennett, deeper sleeper, if you pick Gronk, I highly recommend picking him, because Gronk, if he does get injured, you have Bennett right there, and Bennett's a great receiving tight end, just himself. So Zach Miller, the other sleeper. Yeah, projections, that's right. Projection for 50 catches, 550 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That could be really low. I could see him getting 8-9 touchdowns. So there you go, top 10 tight ends. Number 1, Gronk, 2, Reed, 3, Walker, 4, Olsen, 5, Kelsey, 6, Fleener, 7, Eifert, 8, Green, 9 Thomas, and 10, Zach Ertz. In the sleepers, Ebron and Miller. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and let me know down in the comments, where did I go wrong? Who am I missing? Somebody out there say this guy is a top 5 tight end. He's not even in your top 10. Let me know in the comments below. Let's get some discussion going. Thank you guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you again later.